Hello, I'm Cameron.
Hey, I'm Amanda, and welcome
And
to
this is the
The
Wandering
Wandering
Crow.
Crow. I like that. We're gonna use it. We're gonna use it. Okay, so who are you, friend?
Um, well, my name is Cameron. I've been working on the darker side of the paranormal since I was a kid. I currently am a pharmacy technician, so that would be a little bit of my professional background. I was an EMT for a while, so I've got some stories there. Um, I don't know. Andy.
Okay, and so I guess my question is, just for our listeners, what is it? What do you mean when you say the darker side of the paranormal? Because some people are going to hear that and they're automatically going to think that you're practicing black witchcraft or some crap. So what does that mean? They're going to think you're a demon worshiper.
Oh. So, like Ouija board, the pencil game, the divination, trying to see things like the shadow people and whatnot. I've been hunting that side of things.
Okay. Cool. And then do you want to say anything about your spiritual belief? Something, even if it's just basic, like what is the tenet of what you believe?
I don't want to get into that.
All right, fine. And okay, with that, so that's Cameron. And my name is Amanda. I am currently a hospice nurse, so I spend every day having to confront my own mortality and look at death. And I've done that for a very long time. I have been a nurse for more than a decade. I'm coming close to 15 years. And so I worked in the ICU for 5, and I did a bunch of other stuff. So I've got quite a bit of experience in the medical field. And I have some stories there. I've been interested in the supernatural, just like with Cameron, since I was a kid. In fact, I have a fun story. Cue the dark and spooky music, please. My mom, before she knew she was pregnant, had this dream. And I think it ties into this episode quite nicely. Freddy Kruger came to her in a dream and told her she was pregnant and that she was pregnant with a son. And sure enough, Cameron came along. Like, that kind of
That's
gives
my
you...
real introduction. Is I'm actually Jesus.
No, you're not. You know, we grew up with this stuff one way or another. Our mom used to see shadow people at night, and so we never, ever had the lights turned off when we were asleep. Like, there was always at least one light on because she kept seeing shadow people. And so as far as my spiritual belief system, I am an animist. I am studying some shamanic practices. I do have teachers who are teaching me these things. And I guess believe first do no harm, right? And that spirits are real. And so this podcast is about, for me at least, exploring the many different expressions of spirit and learning about the different spirits are out there. And I am curious from the perspective of knowing, how do I behave? You know, if I'm approached by a particular spirit, having that information, having that knowledge is going to arm me to either protect myself or behave appropriately and not piss spirits off who could otherwise be good. So so that's, for me, what I'm hoping for from this podcast. Cameron, what are you hoping for from this podcast?
So I mean, I've just always had a interest in it, like, you know, a hobbyist view on these things because of our background. I'm sure the Freddy Kruger birth story, the birth prophecy, that had something to do with it, but I just always found this stuff really fun. Even when it is scary, because I have had night terrors, but I enjoy them because, you know, I like the terror. I'm kind of a thrill seeker in that way. But so I think this podcast would just be a fun way to explore the different relations of the dark and mysterious.
There you go. Okay, so for our inaugural episode number 1, sort of, we did one and we didn't like it, so this is technically episode 2, but you'll never hear episode 1.
Mm-hmm.
We wanted to explore 2 entities, particularly. One of them, the Hatman, and the other one, Samedi, otherwise known as Baron Saturday. And yeah, so we are going to see you after the intro. Bye!
There is a medicine story that tells of Crow's fascination with her own shadow. She kept looking at it, pecking at it until her shadow woke up and became alive. Then Crow's shadow ate her. Crow is dead Crow now. Join us as we attempt to look through the wandering crow's eye to find the gateway to the supernatural, to seek to know the unknowable mysteries of creation. Welcome to the Wandering Crow podcast.
Welcome back. Before we get into the nuts and bolts of the talking about these spirits, we do have some disclaimers. Cameron, you want to split it up and we just switch? You read 1, I read 2, etc.?
So, yeah, there's certain biases that we have. We both believe spirits are real living entities that move throughout the world independent of what people think of them or call them. I believe that the spirits are real and they lead their own kind of developing lives, that they can go by many different names. I am approaching this from the point of view that they can be the same figure, even though we call them different things and they're from different cultures. Mandy?
I would agree with that. I think I have heard some people almost kind of believe that the spirit exists only when they call them. You know, people who practice animistic things or witchcraft and whatever seem to have this feeling that they only exist in this world when that practitioner calls them, and that it's up to the practitioner to put them back away. I think that they exist regardless, and they're wandering around the world, getting up to mischief, doing good things, doing bad things, whatever it is that is their deal. And I agree with Cam. They are evolving on their own, and sometimes we see that, and sometimes we lead that, but they are there regardless. Disclaimer number 2. In this episode, we are going to be talking about the abuse of a particular substance. We do not endorse that. That's dumb. You're talking to 2 people who are involved in the medical field. Please don't do that. There are other ways you can see spirits. Don't abuse substances. Cameron?
Yeah, I once had a call as an EMT where somebody decided to roll up a patch and try to smoke that.
Oh no. What?
Don't do any of this. Don't abuse substances. Don't be stupid. You'll end up on a stretcher, going to a hospital.
And likely dying.
No, he lived, but like, oh my God, that's a dumb way to
What a dumb thing to
incur $3,000 of debt.
Or more. Are you kidding? I'm sure it was more than 3,000. The hospital stay alone.
The ambulance ride was about 3,000.
Oh.
You're talking hospital bills are way more than that.
They're in the tens of thousands. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God. Okay. So yeah, we can't stress it enough. Don't abuse substances for a lot of reasons. Financial, your health. Just because it's fucking stupid. Don't be dumb. Okay? Don't be dumb. All right, number 3. I think that's you, brother.
Okay, well, I'm definitely not a spiritual expert of any kind.
Neither am I.
You don't endorse any particular faith or practice, rituals, or otherwise. Just use your own discernment and caution for anyone out there who wishes to develop a relationship with any spirit or entity out there. Just be careful. Don't take what we say as any kind of gospel. We're just here having fun.
Mm-hmm. I agree with that. I think for me, like, I don't want people to hear this podcast and think that you're being taught how to deal with certain spirits. That's not what I'm here for. I'm here to have fun and learn about the spirits, but not how to interact with them. I am not encouraging you to go out and do certain rituals. I think that if you want to do that, you need to be very, very cautious when you do that. That's, I think, where I'll leave it. Number 4. For this episode particularly, I want to make it really clear. I'm very sensitive to the notion of appropriation. And I want to make it really clear Cameron and I, we're Caucasian white folk from a broken lineage. We're Nordic and Celtic and Germanic peoples. And we are not Haitian. We do not know voodoo. We are not practitioners of voodoo. And unfortunately, we were not able to reach out and speak to any person who is a practitioner of voodoo. I'd love that. I would love to actually talk to a voodoo practitioner, a houdun or a manbo, and get their perspectives and their ideas and let them speak on their belief from their own heart. And I want it to be known that we're approaching this from a place of respect. I literally was just watching some YouTube thing where people are practicing voodoo all over the world, and in New York, there was a fire, and the newscaster literally said, the cause of this fire was a voodoo fire. Like, what? Why is it? Why? It was clearly, like, derogatory. It was clearly said with a kind of demon worship kind of undertone to it. Like, these were demon worshipers who were setting fires to their pagan gods or whatever. You know, like, I don't have that sort of feeling about any of these beliefs or practices, especially voodoo. I respect the practice. I don't see it as devil worship. It seems, from what I've learned about it, the little that I've learned, to be pretty beautiful, actually. So, but I think the important part is that, we're outsiders looking at it from the lens of internet research. And I think we're going to probably get some stuff wrong, and that's not intentional. It's just because that's what's out there. And we really, truly do respect these belief systems and the belief systems of others. We don't.
And side note, if any of you out there listening are practitioners of this, we would love to have an interview.
Yep.
That would be a fun episode. So
fun.
If any of you want to reach out, we're open.
Absolutely. Okay, cool. So that's all right. Let's get into the actual stuff. Woohoo! All right, question 1. Who is Hatman? What's his backstory? Cameron, do you want to start this, or do you want me to start this?
I'll start this one.
Cool.
So most of my research says that Hatman came around in the early 2000s. Now that's only the iteration of the night terror that has the hat, and they mostly attribute this. I'm jumping ahead here, but that's it, and it's largely written off as like a creepy, a copy paste. Mm-hmm. Horror story.
I saw that too. In the 2000s thing, I'd like to talk about that kind of later on. I have a rebuttal for that.
I do too. I mean, I don't think that's true.
I don't think that's true either. But what?
And as he is told today, that's largely where he's attributed for coming. Mm-hmm. And when did he first appear? We'll get there eventually.
The only thing I would add, so the Hatman, from my research, is he's considered a type of shadow person or shadow being. And shadow beings themselves are really interesting, and there's a lot of debate about what they are. But this particular shadow being is said to be extremely tall, sometimes has red eyes, and sometimes there's no eyes at all. There's no features. He's just a black nothing, like a void of blackness. And some people think that he's evil, and he feeds off of people's fear. So what people say about the Hatman, he's a shadow person who wears a hat. That's how you can tell the difference between him and the others. And he's known to sometimes wear a trench coat or other Victorian-style jacket, occasionally has a walking cane, and every now and then also has a pocket watch that he will glance at as he's visiting people. So yeah, that's the overview of the Hatman. Hey there, this is Amanda coming at you from editing. And we noticed after we started the editing process that when we first began to introduce the Bon Samedi, we had some very suspicious audio issues. So we've got a clip for you to hear.
It's also why he's actually a welcome sight in many cases.
I would say so. He seems like...
It hasn't really been decided yet.
Mm-hmm. The name literally means Barren Saturday. And an interesting story about this, apparently, I don't know if this is true, voodoo practitioners, you're going to need to call in and let us know. He was named Saturday because, so Friday. He was truly dead on Saturday. Saturday was the only day that he was really dead, because then he rose on the third day, right, on Sunday. So that's the sample that we're leaving you with. We are going to re-record that whole section, so you'll hear that inserted after the fact. But we wanted you to hear what we heard. And to us, it's a little bit suspicious because it sort of slowly comes on. It starts little and then gets stronger and stronger and stronger until it's just a full-blown series of echoes. And you can not understand. It just sounds like static. And then it eases off as we get off of the topic of the Baron. I'll let you form your own opinions on that one. But my brother and I both kind of felt like that was very, very, very sus. So, enjoy the re-record of that particular section. Okay, so who is Baron Samedi? First of all, it is French, and in the French pronunciation, it is Baron. Baron Samedi. And it means Baron Saturday. The first time I ever heard about the Baron, I had just bought this book called The Encyclopedia of Spirits, and I was looking up the various death spirits that exist around the world. You know, as you do. And I came across the Baron. He absolutely blew my mind. I had just finished listening to another podcast called The Belief Hole. I love them. You'll really enjoy it if you haven't already heard of them. And they had done an episode on the Hatman, and I couldn't believe some of the similarities that I saw, little spoiler, between the Hatman and the Baron Samedi. So who is the Baron? He's considered to be a spirit of death specific to the religion of Voodoo, both the New Orleans and the Haitian versions of Voodoo. He has power over both death and life, and he's considered to be a personification of the primal life force. No one can die until he says it's time, because he's the one who has to give permission for their graves to be dug. As I said earlier, the name literally means Baron Saturday, and the interesting story about that is, I don't know if this is true, but this is what is said. He got the name Baron Saturday because we all know, or I think most of us know, the story of Jesus Christ's resurrection. So he died on a Friday. He was in the tomb on Saturday, fully dead, and then he rose on the third day, Sunday. So that day, Saturday, is the only day that Jesus Christ was truly dead, and the only day that he was under the power of Baron Samedi. So even Jesus had to face the Baron at one point. So I find that very interesting. Not sure how true it is, but it's very, very interesting to me. So the Baron is considered to be lewd, obscene, and vulgar. He swears. He's extremely lively. Modern rules and any kind of laws simply don't apply to him. He, along with the other Barons, love kids and are considered to be the guardians and protectors of kids. And I will leave it there for now. Okay, so now on to the Hatman. So right now, there is this theory being perpetuated that Hatman first appeared in the 2000s. And the idea is there are generations of kids who grew up with Freddy Kruger, and he's become this kind of icon for terror when falling asleep. So he's thought to be this subconscious representation that's sort of drawn itself into your night terrors and is personifying physically as you sleep. We don't think that's necessarily true because there were stories of people seeing the Hatman through night terrors before Freddy Krueger first appeared. And I have a couple of thoughts. One, the idea of Freddy Krueger came from a series of unexplained deaths, still unexplained by the way, of 118 mostly young men of Hmong descent, and that's Hmong. They're Southeast Asian people. And they were dying in their sleeps. It actually was reported to the CDC, and there was a major series of studies that were conducted afterwards. One particular report was of a young man who told his parents that he'd seen something in a previous dream, and he believed that if he fell back asleep again, that thing was going to come and it was going to kill him. And his parents, consoled him, told him that wasn't going to happen. He finally fell asleep, and then he died. And Wes Craven has said that the very idea of something in your sleep being strong enough to kill you was so terrifying that it inspired the movie and the character of Freddy Krueger, that's where Freddy Krueger came from. So, yes, I do see the parallel, but Freddy Krueger was inspired by the phenomena, not the other way around. And I would argue it was a different spirit. And I think that that's going to be a very soon to come future episode, because there's a lot to unpack with all of that. Secondly, this notion...
Did the same thing.
Huh?
Especially since vampires did the same thing.
Yep. We're going to argue the sleep demon versus vampire angle. I also want to say, people keep saying the phenomena started in the 2000s. Well, what else started in the 2000s? That's really when social media took off. That's really when we have these areas where people could congregate intellectually for the very first time and share their stories. So yeah, it makes sense that in the early 2000s, all of a sudden we have these explosions of stories of the Hatman and other shadow people. Lots of different things. Because people...
Lots of different things. The black-eyed children, we started hearing way more about that in the 2000s. That doesn't mean that it originated then.
Yes, it just means that that's when people were first able to feel like, oh my God, someone else understands me. I can tell my story too. That's what I think. I think we have this explosion of people suddenly feeling safe and suddenly feeling like they have a community of others who are going to understand what they're talking about because they also experienced it. And so we've got these explosions of these communities feeling free to talk about things that occurred years prior. I have a story that I found that was an occurrence of the Hatman from 1970. And in fact, I also found a story, a novel. There's a novel called A Man in a Black Hat. Or excuse me, not A Man. It's just Man in a Black Hat. It was a novel written in the 1930s. A gentleman purchased this book. Just a basic synopsis of the book. Gentleman purchased some kind of book, and it was like a spell or sorcery book of some kind. So he wins an auction for a 16th century manuscript containing the occult secrets of the Order of the Rosicrucians.
Oh, yeah.
He doesn't... I've never heard of that before. He doesn't get to enjoy the purchase. Oh. He doesn't get to enjoy the purchase because the very next day he's found dead, locked inside of his room, his throat slashed, and the book missing. The police write it off. They say it's a suicide, but the protagonist of the story, Dr. Hawk, isn't so sure because some other guy, a gentleman named Golantz, shows up, and his face, partially concealed beneath a black sombrero hat, doesn't seem to have aged a day in 30 years. So it's this unfolding of who is this guy in the black hat? Who is he, and what does he have to do with the occult? And I wonder, I don't know anything really about the author, but where did that inspiration come from? And looking at the cover of the novel, it could be the Hatman. So, this story was written in 1930 by a gentleman named Temple Thurston. And I have to wonder, where did he find the inspiration for that? Did he have a visit and that inspired him to write this story? I don't know. But I think that there are probably, if we look back, there's going to be other instances of the Hatman appearing way back throughout time. But there's only so much that's actually on the internet. So, anyway, so why did he first appear? Some people think it's this Freddy Krueger thing. I don't think so. Some people think it's because of the creepypasta. I don't think so. Some people are really...
The other theory is that it's just because that was right around the time that all the stressful, end of the world...
Oh.
Like, how many apocalypses did we go through in that year?
Y2K, and then there was the 2012 Mayan apocalypse, and then...
All of that started ramping up in the 2000s,
yeah.
And so they think it was stresses that started having people have more sleep paralysis episodes. And they think that kind of accrued the manifestation of why the Hatman first appeared.
Mm-hmm. So, I found this YouTube video. Hatman occurs all around the world because I really wanted to pin him down to a geographic location if I could, and yet I can't.
I did too.
I couldn't. Could you?
No, yeah, we started to make that argument when we were drawing up the flow chart here, but I never found specifically where he came from.
Yeah.
I couldn't.
I thought maybe we could pin it down to California. Like, does he mostly show up there? Does he mostly show up in the U.S.? Is he a U.S. only phenomenon? But he's not.
By the way, if he was a creepypasta, there would be an original story.
That's true.
There was not an original story. I couldn't figure out where he came from.
Yeah, who was the first storyteller of the Hatman? Yeah.
Yeah.
So there is, I'm gonna do some episode notes. There's a really kind of neat story about the Hatman, and there's interviews from people, like, there were some Spanish-speaking people who were telling about their stories of the Hatman. You know, they end the little YouTube, it was some kind of, it was like Quartz Magazine or something, I don't remember, to be perfectly honest, but I have the link.
I saw that one, yeah.
You did?
Quartz.
And she's like, but at the end of the day, the Hatman isn't real. He's just a figment of our imagination. But that's not my stance.
No.
So I disagree with that. I think, okay, so the other argument that we haven't mentioned is the Benadryl challenge. There are some people out there who, for some reason, believe the Hatman is isolated to this Benadryl challenge. In fact, on drugs.com, they have something to say about the Hatman, which I thought was kind of hilarious. Drugs.com. I'm going to read it to you. From drugs. Huh?
I haven't heard this.
Oh, it's...
Mine was, so for the Benadryl challenge, I stuck mostly to like Reddit and 4chan.
Okay. I was just curious. So, on
They
drugs...
built an entire game on the Benadryl challenge, like a video game.
No, really?
Yes. That's what I was going to tell you about.
Oh, that's fun. Okay, we'll talk about that. Okay, so drugs.com. The Hatman is a fictional figure that started appearing on certain internet sites in the early 2000s that has recently been referred to as the quote-unquote Benadryl Hatman, after reports of people hallucinating and citing him after overconsumption or abuse of Benadryl. So there is this, and I don't think that was the whole quote, but that's the one that I copied and pasted. So even drugs.com has something to say about the Benadryl Hatman, and some people think that the Hatman is this psychosis that is a result of being poisoned, of poisoning yourself. And so there's this thing, so what people are doing, my understanding, is they're taking these ridiculous doses of Benadryl. And by the way, like, I read a couple of accounts of kids dying from the Benadryl challenge. Don't do it. Young people.
It's real easy to overdose on something that's supposed to knock you out.
God, so stupid. I don't know who thought of this. But so...
Same ones that created the Tide Pod challenge.
Oh, so
surprised.
dumb. So dumb. So, the psychoactive effects of Benadryl at high doses is a symptom of anticholinergic poisoning. And anticholinergic means that basically the drug sort of enters into the gaps between your neurons and clogs up and prevents the neurotransmitters. Thank you, I found it. Thank you, brain. Then it blocks the normal neurotransmitters from actually traveling between and allowing the neurons to communicate with each other. That's kind of my understanding. I'm not a doctor, but that's kind of where I got with it. So basically, the Benadryl gets into your brain and prevents your brain from functioning normally. And in very severe cases, it will lead to as something called an anticholinergic toxidrome. It affects every system of the body, every organ system throughout the body, including your nervous system and your cardiovascular system, and that's usually what kills people. And in that toxidrome, people will hallucinate sometimes. They will have violent seizures. They will have a really rapid and dangerous heart rate. They will get really, really, really overly hot because the body can no longer control the temperature of the body. And so they're basically boiling alive. Really terrible stuff happens when you do this. So there's easier ways to see spirits, friends. Don't do this. But the argument that I read several times when I was looking at Reddit threads was, this is the Benadryl challenge. You were stoned. Blah, blah, blah. This is just a psychosis because you already had Freddy Kruger in the brain. Like, it's really these very highly simplified, denying people their experience kind of explanations. And people would rebut, like, no, I was not on drugs of any kind, totally sober. It was daylight. I saw this creature. Explain that. And there's a lot of witness accounts like that. But I don't know. Did you have other things that you were reading about that?
That's a pretty good overview of the whole thing.
Yeah.
A lot of them do say that it's an entity that comes when you're at the brink of death. So you can really be overdosing on, they said caffeine will do it.
Oh.
They said caffeine will do it, alcohol. It's really like when you're at that edge where you kind of feel like you're losing yourself.
Yeah.
That at the verge of falling asleep, you can kind of hallucinate and you'll see the Hatman. But
that's interesting.
Then, like you said, there's people that don't do drugs. They just have night terrors, and this is one of the figures they see.
Mm-hmm.
One of three, typically.
Yes, that was the other thing. So a lot of times people will report that the Hatman comes with other shadow people. And
you usually don't see all three of them, but you can. And I kind of feel like that is an interesting context that's kind of important for Samedi.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
Because the Hatman has these three different forms. And we have the Hatman. There's the smaller, like golem-like creature. And then the other one is kind of a feminine.
Interesting. Okay. So I think that leads us into our next question. You know, what kind of stuff does he do when people see him? So I didn't read about these three. And so what I read was very general. He shows up sometimes with a group of shadow people, and he's usually, quote unquote, the boss of them. He's the leader of the group that comes. What did you read about it? So tell me about all of these different... I didn't read about a golem entity. I did see some accounts where they felt like there was a female with him.
Yeah, so the golem-like entity, that's like your typical night terror, where it sort of crawls up, and it's the one that gets closer to you. It's the one that'll be like peering from over the side of your bed. The one that might grab your foot. The one that will crawl and sit on your chest.
Yuck.
It's the normal night terror image. Like, that's what you would see. That's what you see in, like, all of the old world, like, paintings of sleep paralysis.
Yeah. And I think, but mentioning sleep paralysis, I think that seems to be a really key feature. People oftentimes, certainly not always, are deep in sleep paralysis, which by itself is terrifying. Have you ever had sleep paralysis?
Me? Oh, yes.
Yeah.
And like, I'm big talk here. I say that it's fun. In the moment that it's happening, I am freaking out.
Yep.
There's no control of it. It's just pure terror. It's only after the fact that you reflect on, like, oh, that was so cool. No, when it's happening, you're shitting yourself.
Literally pooping. It's not fun. I find it so unfun that I take pains. I do kind of little rituals around bedtime now to help protect myself, because I do feel like that is me being visited by... I'm okay being visited by the spirits that I've invited to be there, not ones who are going to do shit like that. So I do stuff. But the sleep paralysis does seem to be a very common feature of the encounters with the Hatman. And sleep paralysis, I would argue that the fear is from the sleep paralysis and maybe not necessarily from the entity that shows up, because sleep paralysis by itself is a malfunction of the sleep cycle. You know, like it's the sleep cycle. So it's normal. We have a natural hormone that we secrete when we're asleep that paralyzes us. And that's to protect us from acting out our dreams, and so that we're not punching ourselves or punching our mate, or, you know, we are still as we experience our dreams. But what happens is we enter this sort of liminal in-between space where we wake up, but that chemical hasn't dissipated from our body yet. This is from people who study sleep and sleep paralysis. This is their explanation for this. So you're in this place where you're awake and you can see, but you can't move yet. And I'm not 100% sure.
I think you're right in that I don't think it's their intention to make you afraid, but when you're going through the sleep paralysis, you get that wave of energy that seems to be emanating from the being.
Yeah.
I think that might just be like a realm thing, you know?
Yeah, could be.
Like, because they're not from this plane of existence, you can feel that energy. And that's what kind of causes you to be.
I do. Yeah.
Because the closer they get, the more you feel it.
Yeah. And it's different. The way that you experience it is very different from when you're awake. I do think that they say that you're wide awake and your body's paralyzed. This is from the sleep scientists who study this stuff. I would argue you're not. I think I would be curious to see what like the EEG studies show, because there's this, when you journey, when you travel, when you're doing certain kinds of meditation, you enter what's called like a theta brainwave state, where you're not awake and you're not asleep. You're sort of in this different state. And that's where people like mystics will encounter spirits. It's where you're able to see the other realm and have encounters. And I would argue that I am curious to know, I guess, my if I had to put money on it, I would say you're probably in that other brainwave state. You're in that weird in between brain state, and you're seeing the other realm. Because my experiences, and one in particular, I was actually fine until I began to sense something coming. And that's when I started to really freak out, because previous to that, I had been getting just kind of pissed because I couldn't move my damn body. Like, I realized what was happening, and okay. So you remember the date house?
Yes.
Cameron and I used to live together at this residence that we call the date house. And I had been talking to my boyfriend at the time, now husband, about out-of-body experiences and astral projection. And he told me that one of his coworkers does it, and does it successfully and whatever. And I thought, man, that would be really cool to try. I'm going to try it. So I went to bed that night, and I set this intention. I told myself, I'm going to astral project. I'm going to astral project. I'm going to astral project. And I had this intention of where I was going to go. And I woke up about halfway through the night, and nothing had happened. And I was like, well, damn it. All right. I guess that didn't work. So I went to the kitchen, and I had just made some chocolate mousse, and I opened up the fridge, and I reached for the mousse, and I couldn't pick it up. Instead, what happened is I woke up back in bed again. I was like, what the hell was that? I woke up. That was really weird. I still want that mousse. I'm going to go get it. So then I went back to the kitchen. I went into the fridge, opened up the door, reached for the mousse. Again, couldn't physically pick up the mousse. I just couldn't pick it up. And as soon as I tried, I was back in bed again. Like, what the hell is going on? And it began to dawn on me, oh shit, I think that I'm not in my body. Oh my God. So I tried one more time and I couldn't do it. Again, back in bed. I was like, okay, all right. So it worked. I'm not in my body. And when I'm trying to touch things, it sends me back to my body. Okay. And then I started to hear and feel this crazy vibration. And it was like, I've spent a long time thinking about it, and the closest I can imagine it would be is if you've got a microphone and you've got like a moth or something, or butterfly or something on the microphone flapping its wings really fast, and you've got the bass turned all the way up. It's all bass. That crazy, deep, thrumming, vibrating sound was coming from the corner of the room, and it felt like it was getting closer, and I had this deep sense it was coming for me, and I had no control of my body. Something was going to come for me, and I had this terrible fear it was going to try to take over my body because I wasn't in control of my body. And I was so freaked out. I struggled and finally was able to wake up. Like, I was able, and it was middle of the night, and it was so terrifying. I didn't really sleep that night, and I've never tried to astral project ever again. Like, I was so deeply impacted by that. I never tried it again. I don't know. So I feel like I was fine being in that other space until I began to sense that something was there. And then I freaked out. So maybe...
I think that's the realm. I think that's the fact that they're not from here. You're feeling the energy of wherever they are from.
Mm-hmm.
But I've had enough night terrors to where initially that's what I thought too. Like I thought this was like their motives. I was feeling their motives.
Mm-hmm.
But as time went on, nothing happened enough times to where I just sort of noticed it seemed like they were curious.
Oh, okay.
They were just there to observe. And a few times that I would actually express my fear, like I was able to actually like move or I'd start shaking, they would sort of back off and go away. But I don't know. That could be unique to me. I don't know.
Well, no, because I read that in the Hatman stories. A lot of people are terrified, but there is this, a decently sized group of people who feel more neutral and think that the Hatman is just an observer, because at no point did they feel threatened. They just felt like he was curious and he was watching.
Yeah.
And
it's important to say too, is I've never seen the Hatman.
Oh, okay.
I've only seen the golem figure and the woman.
Okay. Yeah. So, I mean, that seems to fit. So, what kind of stuff does he do when he's seen? Well, people say that he just watches mostly. That he's
he just watches. He observes. He will get closer to you, and sometimes he'll speak. Some people that have done the Benadryl challenge say that he. Again, this is the Benadryl challenge, so they say that he does say threatening things to them, but I don't know.
What kind of threatening things?
It could just be for story clout.
Yeah.
Because some of them say that he does threaten to like take over. He does threaten that they're going to die or that they are dying.
I mean, I understand that, but that's not him killing them. Those idiots took the Benadryl challenge, so...
Yeah, but they usually associate their own demise with him.
Okay, well. I mean, yeah. I mean, I saw some people...
We're dealing with their interpretations of this, so...
That's true. That's true. It depends on the interpretation. I had some people who have made the connection. He spends a lot of time with children, terrifying children, and their thought and feeling was that this being is soaking up the terror, feeding on the fear and the pain and the terror of these kids. And particularly, there has been some discussion I saw where they feel like if you have had to deal with, you know, sexual abuse or other kinds of child abuse, or you lived in a really tumultuous, traumatic environment as a child, he was more likely to be there. And I would, you know, is he there? My question, I posit is he there because he's feeding on that? Or is he there because he's observing and he's doing his best to protect? That's a question I have.
What if that's why he's there for children of abuse?
Yep. Is to do his best to protect. I am interested in that. So, did you have any Hatman stories in particular that you found that you wanted to share? Any witness accounts?
I, again, have never seen the Hatman.
No, I mean that you were reading.
Oh, okay. An interesting section on this movie called The Nightmare. They said that the Hatman actually transforms into animals at times if he wants to get closer to you.
Interesting.
Without waking you up. And so somebody's partner said that they actually saw a cat with red eyes crouching over their partner's body while they were sleeping, and they could hear like their partner whimpering in their sleep. But they also couldn't move. And then finally, when they could move, the cat was gone. They woke up their partner, and he said, "Did you see it? Did you see the Hatman?" But it was actually, from their point of view, it was a cat.
Dude, that's crazy. I've seen a cat. Oh my god. Dude, that's crazy. I've seen a cat. I went on this crazy experience in Prescott, and we were supposed to like be getting in touch with our spirit animals and whatever, and we did like this fasting and things. We did things, and I was out in the middle of the woods, and I was sleeping, and I was exhausted, and I was hungry, and I was really worn out, and I was in this in-between state, and I was in my sleeping bag, and it was freaking freezing out, and I turn over, and there's this the cat was black, it was weird because the fur was black, but it had black spots too, and I could see the spots. Isn't that strange? And it was this red-eyed cat, and it had like bat-like wings, and I looked at it and I was like, no. Nope, I'm not even gonna acknowledge this shit. I don't have time for this. And I rolled over and tried to go back to sleep. But that's crazy because I've always wondered, what the hell was that? What I think about that stupid cat all the time. What was that? If I had engaged, what would have happened? But it was just watching. That's all it did. It watched. I noped out of it, and other stuff happened that night. But that's weird to hear about that cat thing.
Well, now you know.
Now I know. So I have a couple of stories. So these are from Reddit. The first one is from someone named Sindot 2017. And this person says, I was about 4 or 5 when I saw him in the 70s. This is that account that I said. I saw an account from the 70s. Walked in my room and noped my way out. Told my mom about the man in my room, which got her attention. I tried showing her, but she couldn't see him. Needless to say, I refused to go in my room until he left. Haven't seen him since, but like you, it's burned in my memory. So this was a person who was responding to another story. And it was a simple one. It was another one he was just observing, and it was daytime. Like, it was daylight, and this kid saw him when he was 4 or 5. Or she. Here is another one. Fox Feathers had this really long account, and I didn't read the account. This is the reply. He says, I'd like to add, I've been discussing this a lot with my brother. We have a lot of theories, but one of them is that he's pretty neutral. I see a pattern here and other comments on Instagram and YouTube that he tends to just sort of show up in spaces. That was the case with us. But those spaces usually tend to have other underlying issues. For example, he seems to be a prominent figure in places where there's abuse, whether it's that of children, domestic violence, etc. Also, people have mentioned seeing him in Iraq. What? Iraq? I'm kind of thinking if he shows up, maybe he's not really a warning, since that type of stuff seems to be going on, but maybe checking up on the situation and revealing himself as a kind of message. If you see me, I should be the least of your worries. He's always very calm but commanding. Just a theory.
Which is the other reason why I was going to bring up Malthus, but I couldn't find a depiction of him where he was the Hatman. Malthus comes by whenever there's a land that is drenched in disease, turmoil, or warfare. If there is an individual that is surrounded by death, touched by death, if you will. And it's kind of funny because like that seems to be the case with the Hatman. Mm-hmm. That was why I was looking up that one.
That's interesting. So Malthus
he more often than not shows up as a crow. So
Malthus is a demon? Who says he's a demon? Does he do demon?
Oh no, that's in demonology. So it's old figures that have been repurposed as demons.
Ah, I see.
So he's been around forever, but commonly depicted as a dapper crow. Usually he'll wear a top hat. He's got a cane.
Really?
Sword, yeah.
No way. Whoa, okay.
And so I couldn't find the older depictions of him where he's not just a demon, but he's known as like a noble being that shows up whenever death is nearby.
Okay.
And he's usually not the one causing it. He's just
he's just sort of there.
He's like what do they call that? Where they sort of usher in, or he's like an oracle of death. Like basically you know what's coming if he's there.
I see. He's a death omen.
Yes.
Okay. Well, here's another story. I used to see the Hatman all the time. He showed up and would just stand there as I passed by for almost 6 months. This is a person who's awake. He would just stand there watching me. The second to the last time I saw him, I got frustrated and yelled, "Please leave me alone." I saw him a few weeks later, very briefly, and said the same thing, and then never saw him again. And I'm interested in that story, and I bring up that story because I wanted to iterate. You have the power. A lot of these creatures, if you just say, no, I'm setting a boundary, get the hell out of here, they'll go away, usually. So, and I kind of thought that was interesting. Here's one Same. I used to see Hatman when I was a depressed young adult. This is past Succotash. Oh, the previous one, I want to make sure everybody gets credit for their stories, was a person named Fresh Noodle on Reddit. Past Succotash, 1703. Same. I used to see Hatman when I was depressed young adult. Once I cleared my pain about some trauma I had growing up, he went away. Haven't seen him for years, and today, years old, when I realized this was a thing. I didn't know others seen him as well, although my Hatman kind of had some feminine vibes as well. Feminine vibes. That made me think, I wonder if the Hatman was alone, or if there was something else with him. This is one of the ones, okay, I have two that are particularly interesting to our sort of theory, which is a teaser, I'm not going to get into it. But here's one. Had a lucid dream once when my dog was dying next to me. Something was sitting in the corner, clearly distressed. I was turning my head to look, and it nicely, but insistently, asked me to please not. It had tried as best as it could and given me all the time it was able, and it was sorry. Dog died early the next morning. Kindest animal I have ever been lucky enough to know. Same feeling as I got with the Hatman, but never heard it speak before, never looked. Did wake up from it to see if I could help my dog. I couldn't. So what I'm gathering from this is the dog was dying in the corner. This person was asleep, dreaming, my dog is dying in the corner. And this being showed up and said, hey, don't look. Please don't look right now. I did my best. I gave you as much time as I could, but it's time. There's nothing else to be done. And the dog died in the next morning. And that, again, is like, okay, Hatman is showing up when something's dying, and it seemed specifically in this case, they were taking the soul of the dog, whatever it was, and was trying to be as kind as it could be, is kind of how it sounded. I thought that was a really interesting story. Huh?
As empathetic as it could.
Yeah, absolutely. So I have one more. And then I think it's time to move to abound Samedi. You ready for this one?
Yeah.
Okay. Yes. Okay, first of all, this is from, I forgot. Hold on. This other one was from Phesic on Reddit. Phesic. The one about the dog. This one is from Overthinker 1981. He says, my dream doesn't sound like others on here, but the hat and coat resemble others. I've suffered with sleep paralysis in the past, but not on this occasion. I had the most bizarre nightmare that I can't stop thinking about since I woke up. It was a busy dream, but in it I was being chased by a couple. The woman was dressed in an old Victorian dress, and the man was in a suit and coat with a top hat and cane. They were following me up a spiral staircase, but they seemed to be floating. Once at the top, the door was locked, so I climbed down the middle of the staircase, leaving them higher up. But when I got to the bottom, the man with the top hat was waiting for me. Then the woman appeared next to him, tapping his hat, and said, tap the hat, make the sun dance." So the woman said that. Then he lifted off the hat and revealed dreadlocks with beads at the end. He shook his head and the beads made a screaming noise. Then I woke up terrified and confused. What the hell? That's how they end. Cameron, what do you think about that story? That was posted in the Hatman Reddit.
Tap the hat.
Make the sun dance.
That sounds like a pretty wild dream.
That, I think we've proved our case.
Yeah.
All right, so moving in. The Baron Samedi. I do want to do a little mini background on some voodoo, but I think, Cameron, did you have any thoughts, or do you want to start with the Baron?
Well, so Baron Samedi, so he's commonly depicted as a judge, as a somebody, well, I mean, you already addressed this, who he is, a brief introduction.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that these flow in pretty naturally together, that these entities perform the same task at least.
Yep.
It seems like.
Yep.
He will be seen at times when you're at the brink of death, or if your fate is in question. And so you can try to appease this deity, this Baron Samedi, and maybe buy yourself some extra time, or if you think that the spirits are angry and maybe there's a way to persuade them to maybe get a better outcome, you can try different rituals to try to change your destiny in that way. Baron Samedi also has a few different forms that I think we'll get into in a little bit.
Yeah.
So did you want to give a little bit of the background of Voodoo first?
Absolutely, I do.
Go further?
Yeah. So, okay. Again, we are not Voodooans. We don't practice, we don't live it. So I think it's going to be pretty obvious to someone who does live and breathe Voodoo. We're going to get some stuff wrong, but we're doing this to the best of our ability. So in the research that I went through and was reading, okay, we have in the past, not that long ago, slave trade. And where did the slaves come from typically? They came from countries of Africa. And it is said that, so what's interesting to me is I was just reading another thing that says from the Voodoo practitioners themselves, the word Voodoo means spirit. It means, or God. And it comes from the Fon language of a country that was known as Dahomey. And it said that Voodoo was initially brought to Haiti by slaves who were captured from the Dahomey kingdom. And this was in Nigeria. Now, I had read in other places it was the Yoruba people and their faith in a pantheon called the Orisha Pantheon. And what I am seeing, not knowing everything, is it looks like both sort of believe in this all-powerful, all-seeing creator God. And they both seem to, and I could be getting this wrong, but they both seem to believe that this all-seeing, all-powerful God is so powerful and so big, it literally, we are nothing to it. It doesn't really particularly care about human beings. It doesn't have any interest. It's just like we are beyond where its energy kind of, like, we're just part of it. And it's got its own things that it's doing, and it doesn't really participate in human life. It's too grand, and it's too important, and our lives are so minuscule and small, it can't lower itself. You know what I mean? Like, that's kind of the feeling that I get. But other spirits, and in Christianity these would be called angels, exist. And they're not gods, they are spirits. They're lesser entities than this all-seeing, all-powerful God, who move through the world and sort of do the bidding of this God. And they have specific tasks and specific jobs. And the Orisha pantheon of the Yoruba has about 7 gods that I recall. And it was said that the Baron Samedi, he was the syncretized version of one of the Orisha pantheon who sort of adapted and changed when the slaves first came into Haiti. But when I was looking, which one of these Orisha gods was probably the Baron at one time, none of them really fit. Like, the Baron is a very distinct personality. He's got a very clear role and a very clear job and a very clear personality, and he's distinct. There is no mistaking him for others as far as I'm concerned. And I couldn't see where his originator, like, who was he when he was an Orisha, who did he evolve from within the Orisha pantheon? And I couldn't find it. But I did just find this thing that Voodoo itself, as a religion, did supposedly exist in Africa with these Dahomey people. So that was new, and I'm really interested to learn more about the history of it. But in Haiti, it was said from an anthropological standpoint that this mixing of the Yoruba faith and the Roman Catholic faith sort of created this new pantheon, this new group of spirits. And so there's the Gede, excuse me, is how they pronounce it. There's the Gede, and then there's the Iwa. And the Baron is said to be a Lua. When I pronounced it wrong, it's Lua. But he may also be the leader of the Gede. So there is this huge group of spirits that are known as the Barons, and they are Lua in Haiti. And the Barons, this comes from the Encyclopedia of Spirits. There are many Barons. Baron Samedi is their leader. Others who have achieved individual acclaim include Baron Lacroix, Baron Cimetière, and Monsieur Carrefour, the Baron Carrefour. Barons are instantly recognizable. They wear a combination of undertakers and high-ranking Freemasons garb. I don't know what Freemasons wear. Do you?
Freemasons?
Yeah.
So you've got the apron that has the architect's compass.
Oh.
So it's that V symbol. You've got the hammer and sickle. You've got, they usually have the planer.
Oh, okay.
It looks like a pie server, basically.
Huh.
So he'll look like, I guess, in this side of the world, a dandy. And he'll have an apron with various symbols on it.
That's weird. So the thing is, I didn't see anywhere else this information about the Barons also being related to the Freemasons. I literally nowhere else did I see that, just in this book.
There's only one reason for it. It's because there are secret societies for the Baron in Haiti.
That's true. I did see that.
So they have their connections that way. So I think it's kind of been retrofitted.
Like a nod to them? Okay.
I don't think it's actually been part of the story.
Okay. They tend to travel in packs. They are not solemn and funereal, but boisterous, raucous, and lewd. They are disruptive spirits who interrupt other Loa's rituals and possessions. They are obscene, offensive, and vulgar, but also elegant and very powerful. So the Barons, as a group, tend to protect and heal children. They embody primal life. So that's the important part, is the Barons are a representation not only of death, but also of like primal life force. And from what I'm understanding, the Baron is asking you, like, he's telling you, you're gonna die. So for the love of God, enjoy the life you've got. You know, for everything that you've got, take advantage of this time you have. You're going to die. I'm going to take you. So enjoy this time while you can. And he apparently there are no rules for him that can contain him. He's beyond law. He's beyond rules. And so,
but he loves his deals. He is one of the trickster gods.
That's what I saw too.
He loves to strike bargains with people, and he'll stick to his word. His word is his only law. If you break your word, then you've got everything to pay.
Yeah,
that's his one. The one thorn in his side is if people break their word, he will go out of his way.
Man.
It's the only time that I've heard that he can be vindictive. And the only time that you can appease him then is one of the stories I heard was you imitate sexual acts around a bonfire and you sacrifice a black chicken.
Oh.
Which, by the way, is depicted in Interview with a Vampire.
You know, that blew my mind.
One by one, they were all being killed by Lestat and Louis. They sacrificed a black chicken.
That blew my mind when you told me about that. So, but then I also was anytime I was looking for first-hand accounts and like personal accounts of seeing the Baron, I kept getting all of this weird video game and D&D bullshit. Like, what the hell? So I looked. The Baron is so pervasive as a character all over our popular culture. He, like, if you go to his... Well, he is freaking... He seems like a really cool dude. But
he smokes strong cigarettes, coffee, vodka, gin. He loves spicy foods.
Rum.
This here says he likes to have vodka or rum steeped in specifically 21 hot peppers, which renders it too spicy for any Iowa to drink.
Loa.
Yeah, so he is the only... He likes to make it so spicy that none of the other godlike figures can drink it.
In television, he has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 different credits of 8 different shows. In film, it doesn't even include Your Interview with a Vampire, but he's credited with appearing in 1, 2, 3, 4 different shows: Live and Let Die, Sugar Hill, Zombie Child, Disney villain, character Dr. Facilier in The Princess and the Frog. There was another movie he was in. Damn, I can't remember it. He's in video games.
I have my suspicions about the Candyman.
Oh, really? We should do it.
I think that might be like a modern day depiction of the Baron.
He's in a lot of different video games, like just a ton. He is a Marvel comic book character. I'm so sorry, Baron. That has happened to our spirits too.
Hello, Thor.
Hello, Thor. Hello, Odin. Loki. In some books, he is sort of compared to like Loki in some ways, because again, the trickster god. But Baron is just all over the place, and even when I went to the library and I was trying to look up stuff about the Baron, I struggled because he is so... People just seem to really like his vibe, and they think that he's cool, and I have to wonder, there was a part of me that wonders, is he just so powerful that he influences people this way? He seems like very charismatic. Is there some level of this spirit pushing himself into the scene so that he is more well known and he does make these, you know what I mean? Like, I feel like he does have a very powerful essence and he can do whatever the hell he wants. So he's living his life to the absolute fullest.
He's a rock star of demigods.
Yeah.
I mean, he kind of really is.
He really is. So I wanted to, manifestations. Here's what I wanted to, one of the main things. So the Baron is considered to be the boss of the Gede, he's the boss of the Loa for sure, but possibly also the Gede. And I don't know, I really struggled to sort of understand. It seems pretty nebulous, and it depends on the practitioner, it seems like. Manifestations. Baron Samedi's manifests as an older, dark-skinned man in formal attire dressed completely in black. He wears a black top hat, a black suit. He might be smoking one of his beloved cigars. He wears impenetrable black sunglasses, but sometimes the sunglasses might be missing a lens because he likes to he likes the phallic symbol. And so he likes to personify that because he's also the god of sex and fertility.
Which is why you would simulate sex in your ritual to appease him.
Yep.
But the other reason, this is something that I saw, the reason why he likes to pop out one of the lenses is because it shields him. He has one eye on our world and the other eye in the land of the dead. I
did see that. So he can be in both worlds at once. I saw that. That's really cool. But so, that's the Baron, and he's just this really larger than life character. And, what does he do? How does he behave? Who does he love? Well, he goes out and he makes deals. He goes out and he causes disruptions. He goes out and he has fun. He loves children. I never found any account at all where he did not love children. He loves children. He's got a real soft spot for them. And whenever he can, it's said The Baron will do his best to extend the lifespans of children who are possibly approaching death. He tries really hard, and he is the one who decides if you live or you die. It's his decision. No grave can be dug until the Baron says it's your time. And who does he love? Well, the Baron actually has a wife. Did you want to talk about the wife of the Baron?
Yes, so, let's see here. Pulled up. So, his wife goes by a few different names. It is thought that he found a wife amongst the Celtic deities. And this one goes by Maman Bridget, Gran Bridget, or Gran Bridget. And this is an entity that I attribute to the Danu, the triple goddess. This is the maiden form. And she is also symbolized by hot peppers and black roosters. Or in the Celtic faith, if we're saying it's the Danu, ravens. Ravens and crows. Large black birds. And she also drank, and she also was a warrior, and she also helped kids. She was a goddess of sovereignty and self-sufficiency. In the voodoo practices, it says that you can see that she is protecting a gravesite if it has the cross of the Baron above it. And if the person deceased was a female, then it's just inherently being protected by Maman Bridget.
She's just kind of always with him?
Mm-hmm.
That's cool. So the anthropologic explanation for this is it's that mixing of indentured servants from Ireland and Scotland and their patron saints and goddesses and the Haitian voodoo faith, and this mixing of ideas and exchange of spiritual concepts sort of brought her into the Haitian pantheon, the Voodooan pantheon of spirits. And I just thought that was really interesting. And so it's just so cool how that happened. And so they are linked to each other. And who can say exactly how that happened, but I just think that that's very interesting that they do seem like good matches for each other. Now, that's not to say that the Baron is chaste and only loyal to his wife. There are a lot of accounts of the Baron chasing human women and getting involved with human women and marrying that. Like, I saw a lot of interesting things all over. But then I also saw caution. There is a voodoo subreddit where they said there's a lot of garbage all over the internet about the Baron. So you have to be careful what you believe. But it seemed like he is a god of fertility and a god of sex. And there are no laws that can apply to him. So to me, it kind of seemed, all right, I could buy that. I could believe that. So I have some... So I've got a clip, a YouTube video from a YouTube channel called New Lyfe Tools. And it's new, N-U. And then the next word Lyfe is L-Y-F-E, Tools. This gentleman calls himself Brother Yosef. And this is a time where he says he had an encounter with the Baron.
I help people in the lower hell states. But the first thing I want to talk to you guys about is the night I met Baron Samedi. Okay? And this is not going to be a long video, but I want to explain this to you guys. I think this is important. When your consciousness really is evolving and you're really dealing with magic, real magic, and you're really manifesting things in your life, one pantheon of gods, one group of gods that I know are very close to the earth realm and very powerful. And if you deal with their energy is extremely powerful. And they will come see about you. They will come to you. And that is the Voodoo gods. Okay? Now, somebody may disagree with this, and that's okay. I'll just say that this is my opinion based off my experience. I know that there are some people who deal with initiation that says you have to go through Papa Legba in ceremony. But the gods are all powerful and they can do whatever they want. If they want to deal with you, they'll just come deal with you. And that's what this video is going to be about. I didn't go through Papa Legba. I have gone through Papa Legba for certain things because it was the respectful way to do it. But in this particular instance, I pretty much was in my house working on some Samedi rituals. And at this time, I had all the Veves of the Loa hanging up in my house. And I had a nice picture of Samedi. And I was working with the Voodoo energy very heavy at this time. This had to be about, I think the year, maybe 2012, maybe 2011, 2012. And pretty much what happened was, I'm just get straight to the story. I was working on the Samedi ritual, and I finished the ritual, and I was actually working on a ritual for all the Loa and all the the Voodoo gods, and nothing was happening as far as meeting deities when I was working on the other ones. But when I worked on the Samedi one, I went in my room and I fell asleep. And I had an outer body experience, and I basically came out of my body.
An out of body experience.
Off the bed, stood on my feet, and turned around, saw my body sleeping. I was sleeping on my side. And what happened was, I walked out of my bedroom, and the bedroom door was open. So right in my bedroom, I walked into my office, which was right across the hall. And when I walked into my office, something told me to look up at the wall. And when I looked at the wall, the picture that I had of Samedi was actually vibrating. It was vibrating so hard, the picture started to look blurry. And as it vibrated, I saw a huge foot come out. So it's like he kind of just stepped out through the picture, like he bent his head down and everything. And through the picture walks out the Samedi. No lie. He was very tall. His whole face was skeleton. He had a staff in his hand. And I'm going to tell y'all the truth, I was scared to death. At that point, I basically started thinking to myself, like, everything Mama said was right. I shouldn't have been messing with the devil. Now the devil done came and got me. That's what I was thinking to myself. Like, this is it. I done just messed with the wrong thing. And, I tapped into the wrong energy. Now this God of death is coming to get me, And as I stood there, he's looking at me. He's looking at me, and he kind of just turns his head to the side, like, and staring at me like he's curious, It's very interesting. He's curious. And as he did that, he's looking at me like he's curious, and then he points over to the wall like this. He points to the wall, and I look over at the wall, and his hat flies off his head, and it flies into the wall. It's like part of the wall now. And out of the wall climbs some of the what you call the gay day. The gay day. They came out of the hat, and they were skeleton people. They crawled out of the hat. They were made out of skeletons. The whole body was made out of bones, and they had wings. The first one came out, and it blew wind at me. I could feel the wind from the wings. And I remember going like this when it blew the wind. I was like, wow, that was some strong wind. I'm looking around my room, and nothing was flowing over. Like, the wind was so strong, it should have blew me away, and it should have blown like stuff around my room, but it didn't. And when it blew the wind, I said, whew, I felt that felt weird. I felt like some energy, but it felt weird. The second gay day came out of the hat, and it blew the wings, and it blew fire in my face. And it blew a bunch of fire. And when it blew fire at me, I was totally blinded by the fire. And I'm jumping up and down, screaming and yelling, like, I'm thinking I'm getting burned alive. I'm like, okay, this is my punishment for messing with the wrong thing. I didn't know that much back then. So I'm looking at my body, and I'm noticing I don't feel no pain, but my body is burning. Like, my skin is not burning up, but I have fire all over my body. And I'm sitting there on fire, and I'm looking at myself. And I'm looking at Samedi, and he looks at me, he nods his head like this, and he steps back into the wall with his hat on. He steps back into the picture, right? And then the fire enemy just like disappears. So after that happened, I immediately went back into my body. And when I went back into my body, I jumped up and, I was like, what in the world was that? That was crazy. I actually went in my office to see if he was in my office. I'm peeking and like, oh, what? So I go back in my bed and I go to sleep. And I heard a voice tell me, I have given you this energy. That's all I heard. I've given you this energy. So I fell asleep. And I remember waking up the next morning. I felt amazing. I can't explain it. I felt like I could do anything. I had all this energy. And I went about my day as a regular day. So I didn't think much about it. But after that happened, I noticed that I would start having these, I thought they were nightmares at first. But what's happening is I was going into the lower astral worlds.
Okay, I'm going to stop it from there. Because then he talks about his experience of the lower astral worlds. He calls them hell.
Kind of really amazing. Because remember I told you about my night terror where it felt like I was feeding off of their energy?
Yeah, you did.
And I felt amazing. I felt like I could do anything.
Yeah.
I was alive.
Brother Yosef seems like a really cool dude. He's got a whole... I just want to... Because we did use his content, I just want to make sure he gets all the credit in the world. And if you were curious, that's a 30-minute video. He talks about a lot of very interesting things. He seems like a cool dude. So if you're listening to this, please, and you're interested, please visit his YouTube channel. I want to make sure that we're just doing the right thing and giving the right credit. He seems like a cool dude, and his story ties in with so much. So I cut you off. Sorry. Go ahead.
And we should definitely add a link.
We're definitely going to add a link for him. I've got the link stored here. He's just... I really was moved by that account. But anyway, continue.
I do find it silly that... So he was summoning this Baron Samedi, and then it came... and he didn't say anything. If you're going to summon something like that, you should definitely have something in mind, what you want.
That you're going to say. Well, he was terrified, remember? He thought he was about to die. He was...
Okay, but if you summon a thing and it shows up, follow through. That's probably why the Baron was looking at him interested.
Are you going to say
I'm
something?
Here. What now?
Here. Yeah, exactly. Well, yeah, I can see that. Who's to say he didn't later, He probably did. Yeah, I don't know. That Brother Yosef seems... He's got a lot of really interesting ideas, and the language that he uses is very different from my understanding of things, but I think that he's onto something. I think Brother Yosef is the real deal. So I'm going to make sure his YouTube link is in there so you guys can see the video. But I loved that. So some of the things that we didn't press upon when we were talking about Hatman, what does Hatman look like? He is a shadow person in a hat. Sometimes people say he's wearing old-timey clothes. Sometimes he's got a gold pocket watch. And he wears a jacket that is either described as like a trench coat or a cape. And
sometimes it's a frock coat.
A what?
A frock, what is it? A frock coat? Like the old Louisiana, nobility, their trench coat.
Yeah. So that's what the Hatman looks like sometimes, oftentimes, a lot of times. And then we've got this Baron, and we have a first-hand account from Brother Yosef who says, the Baron showed up and he just looked at me and he was just curious about me. He didn't say anything that whole encounter. What does the Hatman do? He doesn't usually talk except for in that one account. And what I liked about Brother Yosef, what he described to me sounds a lot like a shamanic empowerment. It's similar to some of the stuff that we talk about and the stuff that I do is the spirits will come and it seems like they're killing you. But what they're doing is they're breaking you down and rebuilding you to them in their own way. They're giving you something. It's a gift usually. And one of the other accounts of the Baron that I have is the time Baron Samedi paid me a visit. She said she had this account. He showed up in her dream, and he had a top hat, a skeleton face, a sinister grin, dark piercing eyes. She said, instead of asking him, what do you want, she ran away. She locked all the doors. She locked up the house. She wouldn't let him in. And every time she locked the door, he'd show up at a different door or a different window and was just on the verge of coming in when she would find him and shut the door. And this went on for a really long time until she became super exhausted. I'll have the link to this. And eventually, after a long time of this, of running around the house, moving, trying to keep him out, she finally gave up. She let him in. She was so freaked out. She had a gut-wrenching fear that something terrible was about to happen. When he started to talk to her. She said, I can't share the things that he said to me, but he taught me about really complicated things that my subconscious understood, but I don't remember any of it. She says, I woke up the next day, and she says, after it took me some time to understand why he was doing that. She says, I think that he shows up as this materialized energy, because he actually had physically done some stuff in her life. But he symbolizes the journey to the afterlife, or death, which has its correspondence with life, changes, and transformation. She said, the image of me running from the Baron was my subconscious mind telling me that the changes I was running from were eventually going to manifest anyway, one way or another. She says that we fear change, and sometimes that change, our fear paralyzes us, but transformations are inevitable. She said, that night, the spirit of the dead and underworld signified to me a death of self that was on the rise. She said, I didn't know that death in me needed to happen, but it did in order for myself to grow, in order for me to experience change and evolve as a person. And so I read that story because I think it takes us back to our final question. Here is the question. Who is the Hatman? Where does he originate? And I think maybe, I know that we had storyboarded that we were going to talk about the current theories, but maybe we just say ours. What do you think, Cameron?
Yeah.
Our theory is that the Baron and the Hatman could be one and the same entity. And there's all of these accounts of Hatman showing up when people are going through really terrible, tumultuous times in their life. When they're young, when they're being abused, and maybe he's there to help empower them, to help see them through it. Maybe he's there because he's trying to tell you there's something about the way you're living your life now that needs to die, and he's trying to guide them through that.
Yeah, like a symbol of tribulation.
Mm-hmm.
Sort of breaking down of the old and restructuring the new.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. So, and so we go back to some of these stories of the Baron and what he was doing. What was he doing? He was watching. He was curious. He was with people at their worst moments. Did he cause those moments? No. People think that he's feeding from them. Maybe in some way he is, but is he really trying to terrify people? Or is there something else at play there? What do you think?
Well, I think if he was trying to terrify you, there's other ways that an entity like him could be way more successful at that.
Yeah.
Drive you to absolute madness, but he doesn't. He's just there. He's just observing, and you just feel his energy radiating. Now, feeling that kind of power is probably where the fear comes from.
Yeah.
And I'd also like to point out that this guy that saw the painting and the Baron come out of it,
Mm-hmm.
he felt the vibrations that we were just talking about.
He felt the vibrations. That's incredible. He felt it. That didn't escape my notice either. That's why I think that I'm inclined to believe him as a person who's telling these stories, because there was so much that I can relate to. Did you have any encounters that you found, like any Aaron, any Baron encounters that you wanted to share, or anything else on the Baron?
Kind of what you would expect. It's exactly what we've been talking about. Every time they see him, something terrible is about to happen, and either he's there to guide them through it, or he is the cold hard fact that they cannot face.
Mm-hmm.
And so when he shows up, it's finally just cemented in their mind. Okay, this thing I've been avoiding, here it is.
I agree with that. So what do you think? Do you think, it seems like you do you think that in every instance, the Hatman is probably the Baron?
Could be. I believe it is. And it seems like the pervasiveness of Baron Samedi in our culture could be why he's been seen all over the world.
Mm-hmm.
More and more people have noticed him as a symbol of himself.
A symbol and a character.
They can address that in their mind as, okay, that's what this is. And so in voodoo, a lot of times you have to believe in it for it to actually work. Well, I think knowing about it is the first step. And I think that is kind of how he's gotten his foot in the door, so to speak.
I agree.
All of these different cultures.
Mm-hmm. I think that it's that level, that energetic connection of even just knowing about him as a character, seeing him as a character, some level of belief is poured into that, and it empowers the entity further. And I think that he's probably a very, very clever... I just, as an entity, as a spirit, I would recognize the Baron as being very clever, very smart, very powerful creature who has manipulated his way into the back of our minds, one way or another. He's there. I was so surprised when I realized all of these different iterations of him, and I never knew who he was as an actual spirit. I never knew his name. I never knew where he came from or what he represented. And
even I was familiar with his image, but when you said Baron Samedi, I didn't realize that was his name.
Yeah, right? He's just this nameless character who sort of shows up in movies and in video games.
That skeletal face and that hat are just iconic.
Yes.
Like, know that being, even if you don't know who it is. It's just, oh, I recognize this.
Mm-hmm. Agreed. So our theory, so I think, I'm going to reread this one because it just gives me the goosies in the biggest way. I loved this story so hard. This is from the subreddit of Hatman from poster Overthinker 1981. I'm going to read it again. We've talked about the Hatman. Now we just finished talking about the Baron. Tell me who you think, dear listener, this entity was. Overthinker starts by saying, my dream doesn't sound like others on here, but the hat and coat resemble others. I've suffered with sleep paralysis in the past, but not on this occasion. I had the most bizarre nightmare, that I can't stop thinking about it since I woke up. It was a busy dream, but in it I was being chased by a couple. The woman was dressed in an old Victorian dress, and the man was in a suit and coat with a top hat and cane. Who has a top hat and cane? The Baron. They were both following me up a spiral staircase, but they seemed to be floating. Once at the top, the door was locked, so I climbed down the middle of the staircase, leaving them higher up. But when I got to the bottom, the man with the top hat was waiting for me. Then the woman appeared next to him, tapping his hat, said, tap the hat, make the sun dance. Then he lifted off the hat and revealed dreadlocks with beads at the end. He shook his head, and the beads made a screaming noise. Then I woke up terrified and confused. What the hell? Like, that story, I have no doubt in my whole soul that was the Baron. That was the Baron and Madame Brigitte. And this person didn't even think it was. They posted it in the Hatman Reddit, thinking that it was the Hatman.
My own side to that is, I believe Maman Brigitte is the Danu, and also many of these depictions are probably the Morgan. I think that's why she's so drawn to him.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, yeah.
She's also a goddess of the crossroads, goddess of death.
They're perfectly suited for each other. I would say in my research, so let's go back to the current standing theories about who is the Hatman. He's a mass hallucination that was inspired by Freddy Kruger. Well, I don't think that that's true because Freddy Kruger was actually inspired by phenomena that occurred in the 70s. So, if the Hatman was inspired by Freddy Kruger, what the hell inspired Freddy Kruger? And even that, I would not argue was the Hatman. It was some other spirit. One of the theories that I saw that did make me pause and think, there is a theory that the Hat Man is kind of a screen memory of people being visited by aliens. That the Hat Man and his retinue could be a group of alien observers. And that made me pause. I wonder, like, maybe that could be. What do you think of that one?
So, well, I do think I don't write off every abduction story. I do think that some of them are real. I don't think that's what the Hat Man is. Again, maybe in some cases. Maybe they have night terrors and they see the Hat Man. And then when they get abducted, there's some sort of crossover there to where they just see the aliens as Hat Man. Mm-hmm. I'm more inclined to say that it's not aliens, though.
Yeah. Okay. So we've got mass hallucination. I don't think so. Alien observer. Cameron doesn't think so. I think maybe.
It's funny that I'm more skeptical to the aliens thing than I am.
Yeah, I feel like you believe aliens more than I do. So that's funny.
Yeah. And I think it's weird to me, but it sounds like crazy talk to say that it's aliens.
Then, of course, we have the theory of it being nothing more than a psychosis resulting from the anticholinergic toxidrome syndrome. I think, yeah, maybe sometimes. Maybe. And maybe it's, what is the phrase that scientists love so much? Correlation does not equal causation.
Yes.
Just because they occur together, maybe that doesn't mean that one is the cause of the other, huh? I don't think we've proved that. And then, of course, there's the sleep paralysis phenomenon and the idea that the Hat Man is a hypnagogic hallucination. But even then, in one of the articles I read, or it might have been a YouTube video on this one, scientists can't completely explain why are all of these dreams mostly unpleasant and why do they tend to be similar across cultures. That's not entirely explained. So, okay, yeah, maybe it's a hallucination, but why did they present the way that they do so similarly?
Mm-hmm.
I'll tell you.
They all have that weird pulsating feeling.
Yeah.
Every account seems to have that. In fact, without even addressing that, I was talking to some of my friends that have night terrors, and I described the pulsating without really getting into what I saw, and they stopped and seems like they were reliving it, and they were horrified.
Oh my gosh, that's crazy.
I realized that was a thing that happened to everybody. But me knowing night terrors, I just started describing that, and they're like, "Oh my God, you too?" It's that happens with everyone.
So when we first decided this was going to be our topic, I was convinced, without a doubt, 100%, that the Baron was the Hat Man. No question for me. The Hat Man was the Baron was the Hat Man, and people just didn't know who the Baron was, and so they were misnaming the Hat Man. But as I got into it and I started reading some of these encounters with the Hat Man, I started to wonder. So here's where I'm at with it right now. I think in a lot of instances, the Hat Man probably is the Baron. I think that it's him. He's out there. I mean, death touches everyone, regardless of culture, right? And I think that the Baron's out there. He's doing his job, and he's deciding, do you live or do you die? Especially with these Benadryl challengers, I believe that it is probably the Baron. But in some of these other instances, I do question. You know, we do have trickster spirits. We do have some spirits who will pretend to be a certain entity and kind of to serve their own purposes. And so I do wonder, you know, maybe in some of these occasions, it is alien observers. Maybe in some of these occasions, it is some other entity that's pretending because it serves its purpose to pretend to be the Hat Man. So I do
wonder about the ones that say that the Hat Man spoke and threatened them.
Yeah.
That doesn't sound right. That doesn't sit right.
Unless they had made some deal that they're not talking about, you know.
Could be.
And in which case, maybe it was the Baron and he's pissed that they didn't hold up their end of the deal. I did read in a lot of different places that the Baron is very moody. It's very easy to offend him, and that's not unique to him. A lot of spirits are like that. In a lot of different practices and cultures, so the spirits can be very moody. If you say you're going to do something, you better freaking do it. So never make a deal that you can't keep. So I think where I'm at is that in a lot of instances, I think the Hatman is the Baron. That's where I landed on this. But I think that there are some of them that maybe possibly are not. That not all of them are the Baron. That's where I ended. What do you think?
Sort of like, so if something traumatic happens in your sleep, your brain only can dial it down to what it sees as logical. So it brings the Hatman into the fold. Like, okay, here's what actually happened.
Yeah.
So it's sort of like when you can't remember a traumatic thing and it replaces your memory with something else, it brings the Hatman into it. So I think some of those alien abductions, maybe they're seeing the Hatman because that's the only way their brain can come to terms with what they saw.
Yeah, I could totally get behind that. Definitely. So, yeah, listener, what do you guys think? Hopefully we did a good job of breaking down these two entities and you learned some new things and we made some connections you've never heard before, because I think I was most excited because in my research, I couldn't find where anybody else had made the connection between the Baron and the Hatman, and I was so excited. We are smart. We've made this connection no one else has made. And I think that it's true, but maybe not always true, I think is where I landed with it. So, anything else you wanted to say, Cameron?
Kind of unrelated, but so I did look it up. It's a frock coat.
A frock?
That's the old Victorian trench coat.
Interesting. Oh, there was something else I wanted to say. On one of the Reddits, I do want to look up frock coat. I'm sorry, I got excited because we were talking about clothes again. Frock. And it reminded me of this. And
the Baron has often said that he can look like a dandy, which is somebody who wears very formal, beautiful attire.
Hey, frock coats are pretty. These are nice. Exactly.
And so frock coats fit that perfectly.
Wow. Okay, so listeners, Google frock coat, but if you don't have time for that or you're driving or whatever, frock coats are really nice. They have a very Victorian, steampunky kind of feel. They're nicely tailored. They've got big collars, and they come down. They're long-sleeved. They are buttoned up to about mid-chest, mostly. Some of them go a little bit higher and have high necks. They are nipped in at the waist, so they're tailored to sort of be form-fitting. And then they flare out again at the hip and have a lot of extra material, kind of like a flower, at the base. And there's female versions and male versions, and they are all really quite elegant looking. They're really nice. That totally makes... I could definitely see the Baron wearing something like that. And I could see that being mistaken for a trench coat. I could see that for sure. That's cool. I did want to say, one of the subreddits, or one of the posts in the Hatman subreddit has it's actually really neat. A picture of several different styles of hat. There's 16 different kinds of hat. They're all black. And they include cocktail hat, fascinator, a deer stalker, cloche, the Panama hat. I didn't even know what that was. The beanie, beret, all these different things. And it asks the question, which hat does your Hatman wear? What's interesting, for most of these people, it was either a boater, a Panama, a fedora, a Homburg, or a bowler. They all kind of have the same basic shape and could easily, like, I could see a Panama being mistaken for a fedora, or a bowler and fedora getting confused for each other. Like, could it be he's wearing one kind of hat and we just don't know enough about the different types of hats and we're just calling it a fedora? Or
and, we're just so we're saying a fedora, right? Not a trilby? A tribly?
What is a tribly? That's not on this list of hats here, friend.
So, like a fedora guy from Reddit, that's actually a trilby. A tribly.
I looked it up. Yeah, it could be a tribly. It looks just like a cross between a Panama and a Hamburg. Well, and kind of like a fedora. Like a fedora, the brim kind of curls up a lot more.
Yeah, it's a fedora it's got a longer brim. Like, just in general, the brim is wider. So it looks more like your old detective's hat as opposed to the Milady bro from Reddit.
I gotta say, it's too much for my brain. I don't have room to remember all of the different styles of hats. But I think it's interesting how close, like they are very distinctive styles, but they are so similar. If any person out there who's like me, who doesn't have space in their brain to remember all of the many different kinds of male hats, you could easily look at that and say it's a fedora, because that's a name that you can pull out of your head. I know what a fedora looks like. That's a fedora, even though maybe it's not. I think that's so cool to like think about. I'll try to post a link to that too in the show notes. Anyway, so do we feel complete on this subject?
I think we did a pretty good job.
I think we did a badass job.
And we kind of touched on some of the stuff we want to talk about in the next episodes. Like, who is Brigitte, the wife of Samedi? Who is Freddy Kruger? Where did he come from? Was he a sleep demon or a vampire?
I kind of feel like that might be the next one. I'm not sure. So, listeners, if you enjoyed this episode and you want to hear more, we're thinking either we're going to talk about maybe learning about Brigitte and who she is, or we might have a lively debate about Freddy Krueger and whether or not he was based on sleep demons or vampires. So stay tuned for the next episode, and thank you for joining us and sticking it out for, Jesus, almost 2 hours of recording. Thank you all so much, and we'll see you next time on The Wandering Crow.
Yes. I hope you had fun in I'm sorry, what'd you say?
I don't know.
I thought you said Wandering Grove. You said Wandering Crow.
I said
okay.
Crow. I do remember the name of our podcast.
Wandering Grove, that's a new one.
All right.
Well, thank you for joining us with The Wandering Crow. Have a good day.
Yeah, talk to you next time. Bye-bye. All right.
Okay, hold on. I need more crack in me.
That stuff is so bad for you. I assume you mean Red Bull or Monster or something, by the way, not real crack, because that's also very bad for you.
Crack.
Unless you get hit by a car, in which case it's not so bad. Did I tell you that story? Crack is whack? Yeah, I told you that story. Crack is whack unless you get hit by a car.
That was in our first introductory.
Our pseudo first episode, yeah.